This is my favorite book. It's about the circus and it's full of images about the circus. Like, I love that. It's basically a big picture book, and I think that's beautiful. Now, this has nothing to do with the video, but I wanted to show you because if you think this is cool, we're gonna get along, and that's important to me. But basically, I'm gonna teach you how to sew a straight line, which is the basis of 90% of sewing. And if you can learn this skill, which you totally can because it's just sewing in a straight line, you can sew 90% of things, which by my math is a lot. I'm gonna show you how I thread my sewing machine, how to sew in a straight line, tips for getting a good balance and tension on the sewing machine, which is your biggest barrier in this process. And we're gonna talk more about the circus because why not? Why not? Can't just talk about sewing all the time, that's ridiculous. So when I came into my studio today, my iron was in the down position and it was just sitting there. But luckily it raises, so like it wasn't a problem, but I was scared because I saw it and I was like, oh no. But you know, with modern technology, you don't have to worry about shit like that, which is great. It just raises up. I love my iron. Threading a sewing machine is easy. I need you to say it with me. It's easy. You can do it. It's attainable. You can learn how to do it. It's not that bad. You got this. Because honestly, it's not that bad because it tells you what to do on the machine. So, for example, this bobbin case tells you how to load the bobbin in the machine. If you don't know, most sewing machines have a bobbin, which is the lower thread, and then they have a top thread, which is like the regular spool of thread. So basically, if we look at this drawing, we can tell that the bobbin goes in like this. You kind of pull it over, and then it hooks through this little metal piece right here. One thing you want to do before you start threading your machine is making sure that your presser foot is in the up position. That's what lowers this little feed dog here. And you want to make sure that it's not down, that it's up. Then what we're going to do is put our thread on the top thread spool holder. Usually there's a little thing that goes here that stops the thread and holds it in place. I lost mine, so we're going to ignore that. You can see here that there's a 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 5, and down to the needle. So most machines are going to do that. So you hook the thread like the little drawing says. This is a little challenging to do with one hand, but I'll do it for you guys. Hook it around number 2. So you go down and around and up and around, and then you're down here with number 6. So your path might look a little different than this one, but basically most sewing machines are gonna tell you how to thread the machine. And if you want to look up a video with your specific number of your machine, like the name, like Singer Heavy Duty 4423, then you can find a really detailed tutorial probably by somebody that's a little more detailed than me. But I'm detailed, but like, you know, not that detailed. So I guess you can keep watching, but I'm not gonna be like somebody that does all of that, you know? Sometimes I cut corners and that's okay, but I'm still a good teacher. Please keep watching. Now something that's the bane of my existence, the Singer Heavy Duty 4423 has a hook where the thread goes. You can see it right there. You're supposed to hook it there, and I hate that you're supposed to do that. Now, this machine has an automatic needle threader, and most machines do. It's like a little thing you pull down. So what I do, I hook it around that needle threader. I put the needle threader through the needle, kind of clicks in, and then you put the thread behind this hook, and that pulls it through the needle without you finagling it. Now there's a hand crank on the side of your machine. So once you have your top thread through the needle correctly and your bobbin thread hooked in here, you can start to turn the hand crank. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna kind of start sewing, kind of. What will happen is your bobbin will get engaged. Now see how the thread was over here and now it's kind of at the top of the machine. That means you're ready to sew and you can put your bobbin case back on. So a good idea at this point would be to get some fabric scraps to sew together. You want woven fabric that doesn't have stretch to it because that'll be easiest to sew and to calibrate your machine. And you can move on to more stretchier fabrics the more that you learn to sew. But practicing, definitely use woven. I have my stitch dial on the straight stitch function. The length is set to 3. The width doesn't really matter in this situation because we're doing a straight stitch. The needle position is in the center as opposed to left or right. Now my tension is on 3. You can see that there's a line in between the 3, 4, and 5. That indicates a normal tension setting, as opposed to 1 or 2, which would be low tension, and 6, 7, and 8, which would be a really high tension. So I'm gonna set my tension to 3 to start out. With the seam that I sewed earlier, this part of the fabric is the outside of the fabric. That's called the right side. The wrong side would be the inside. You can really tell this concept on a pattern piece of fabric. This is the right side, and this is the wrong side of the fabric. See how it's gross and ugly? So I'm gonna take these two pieces and I'm gonna put the right sides together where they're facing each other, and I'm gonna take it to my sewing machine. Quickly taking a break from our skill building to show you my favorite page. I'm gay. No, but really there's one a few over that I love. Angry face, dramatic silhouette. I want to make this in real life. What we're gonna do is take the edge of this fabric and line it up with one of the notches on the seam guide. It doesn't matter which one, but just choose like 5/8 because that's a big seam allowance. And it's also the most common in sewing garments. And we're gonna put the edge of the fabric right by the needle. Then you're gonna slowly press on your presser foot and start sewing. Now, you can go as slow as you want, but make sure that this edge is on that seam guide. You don't need to look at the needle, but just try to make sure that that edge follows that seam guide. Again, we're taking these pretty sides, making them touch, putting the edge of the fabric next to the seam guide. We're lowering the presser foot and sewing. We're raising the presser foot, pulling a little bit, and then snipping that thread. What we've done is we've created a seam. So now these two pieces of fabric are joined. Congratulations, you can sew. The rest is troubleshooting when things go wrong. Let me give you a little taste of what could go wrong during this process of practicing sewing a straight line. One thing that could happen is your tension can be too high. This can lead to a seam that's not quite balanced, as opposed to our earlier seam that's much more straight. Also, your tension could be too low. If your bobbin thread is visible on the back of your fabric, the tension is too loose. They're like little dots along the seam. The fix for this is to raise your tension. I made a guide that lists different types of fabric and the sewing machine settings to use for that fabric. We've got knit, stretch, delicate shear, lightweight, medium weight, and heavyweight. It includes examples of the type of fabric, the stitch length, and the tension settings that you would use for that fabric. This is available whenever you purchase my zine, How to Understand Sewing Symbols, or you can get a digital copy of this in my zine bundle on my website. Thank you for joining me on this sewing journey. Now that you know how to sew a straight line, ask me your next question in the comments. I want to help you sew and create clothes for yourself. I've got a lot of great videos lined up and I want to answer your questions and implement them in my videos. I post sewing vlogs and sewing tutorials, and my hope is to empower you to create clothes that fit your body, that match your aesthetic, and make you feel proud. Thanks for watching.